So it's Kat and Rebecca here from The Seeker and the Skeptic, and we're doing our very first ever Lesser Invoking Ritual of the Pentagram. So if you're catching this on YouTube, you can find our full podcast episode about Alesiter Crowley at seekerandskeptic.com.
And for those of you listening to the podcast, we'll be setting the scene for you. So we've got, the usual podcast setup.
This is how we always do our podcast.
We're in our Christmas PJs because it's a very Crowley Christmas. And, a very Crowley Christmas. And if you're a podcast listener, you'll already know what I'm referring to.
Indeed.
And a few candles. And, of course, the Seal of Solomon.
Right. I'd never seen this Seal of Solomon thing before, but is this typical Crowley setup?
Yeah, definitely. So this is it's like a classic symbol that I see. I just did a Google image search for Thelemic rituals to see what they had about. A lot of them had pentagrams, which we've also got, above the Seal of Solomon. So we have a black piece of paper on our table, large black piece of paper. The Seal of Solomon is in white chalk. I don't really know what these symbols mean. I just copied them from the Google images.
Which you didn't tell me that we would be involving Saturn and Mars here, which are malefic planets, and I don't want to be invoking any Saturn and Mars energy here, but I guess this is what it calls for.
Yeah, it's already on, I'm afraid. I'm not rubbing it out now. And then on top of the Seal of Solomon, we have 5 tea lights in mason jars, obviously, and between those mason jars they're connected with a red piece of string, which doesn't show up very well on camera apparently.
It's beautiful though, trust me.
And in the middle, in a place almost as if it was designed to go there, is my favourite kitchen knife, well, my biggest kitchen knife, because we need a knife for this ritual.
Is that what they're called in ceremony? Do they become something else?
It could be athame.
Okay.
That's what you would call it in Wicca.
Right.
But I don't know what they call it in Thelema, so...
Okay, so we're going to start by centering ourselves with a couple of minutes of mindfulness meditation, because despite all of the occult paraphernalia, Thelema rituals actually are mostly mental exercises, something that you might have come across in like a yoga class.
But to keep it interesting for our listeners and viewers, let's just make it 3 breaths of mindfulness before we get going. Okay, the first part of the ritual is called the Kabbalistic cross. It's similar to the Christian sign of the cross, when you touch your shoulders, forehead and stomach to make a cross shape, but it's a little bit different. So, should we go?
Yes. So first of all, we're going to be touching our forehead with our right forefinger.
Ate.
Touching our heart.
I was.
Touching our genitals.
Malkuth.
Touch our right shoulder.
Vegebura.
Left shoulder.
Vegebula.
Clasp hands on breast.
Leoem. Amen.
So now Rebecca is going to be moving to each compass point and making the pentagram sign, which is like a 5-pointed star. So starting in the east. Yod He Vav He. To the south. Adonai. She's also doing a kind of pointy thing with her hands at the end of the star. Oh, and she's using the knife as well. That was to the west. And finally to the north. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai. Nice.
So now we're going to turn to the east to invoke the archangels, and we'll say together, before us, Raphael, behind us, Gabriel, on our right hand, Michael, on our left hand, Uriel, for about us flames the pentagram, and in the column shines the 6-rayed star.
Okay, so now we should be visualizing the archangels. And in the book Living Thelema, David Shoemaker describes them like this. So Raphael is in the east, dressed in a yellow robe with violet trim, and he bears a sword or dagger. Gabriel is in the west, wearing a blue robe with orange trim, bearing a cup. Michael is in the south, wearing a red robe with a green trim, bearing a wand. And Uriel in the north is wearing a black robe with white trim, bearing a disc or a pentacle.
Got 'em. Right, now we finish up by repeating the Kabbalistic cross that we started with.
Ate, I was Malku, Vegepura, Vegebula,
Le'aloem.
That was so good.
With a little background accompaniment.
I know, it was perfect.
From my beloved cats.
Oh, it's awesome. Okay, so, well, do you think the archangels made their presence?
To be honest, probably not.
I don't think that my laughter at touching my genitals and saying Malkuth was helping.
I also got left and right mixed up on the beginning, so if we did invoke something, it might have been the wrong thing that we were going for. I also think, I mean, obviously, this is the first time we've ever tried this ritual, so it doesn't come smoothly to us yet.
We need practice.
Yeah. I think one of the things about ritual is when it becomes habitual and you've done it so many times. It's like yoga. Like if you've done a yoga movement loads of times, your body sort of almost does it naturally. And I imagine that's true with these sort of rituals too.
Well, because I think David Shoemaker suggests doing this like every day.
Yeah.
So imagine doing this every day. I mean, I can't imagine... I mean, maybe it doesn't take that long once you get used to it. Or maybe people have a permanent place in their home where they can just like, you know, get it on.
Yeah.
Every
yeah, if you know all the words off by heart and you've got your Seal of Solomon there permanently, then you don't need to worry, do you? And maybe all this gets shorthanded as well. They love to do the shorthand.
Right, so you're just saying e, like, you know, you're just kind of making sounds. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Like, I liked saying the words, the creepy words. And I think it's pretty. It's nice to have candles lit.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And surprisingly, even though we set this up obviously to do it as a bit of a performance for the podcast, as soon as you turn the lights off and put the candles on, that sort of atmosphere is conjured, isn't it? It's a bit magical.
It is. And had I spent, you know, we spent more time maybe in the meditative part at the start.
Yeah.
If I wasn't giggling, maybe this could start to, you know, get you into an altered state, perhaps.
Do you think... I mean, was it scary? Because you were a bit intimidated to begin with.
Well, as soon as I saw Saturn and Mars there, I mean, who knows? Who knows what we've done today? But
do you think all your astrology friends will be judging you?
I think I'm going to get some astro judgment.
But it didn't actually feel scary, or at least, but maybe that's partly because we weren't so practiced that it felt real.
Right.
Maybe it would start to feel more scary the more we got into it.
I'm sure.
Or the opposite. Who can say? And I mean, this was supposed to be to clear out energy so that we can proceed with the rest of our podcast about Crowley, and make the best podcast so far. So what do you reckon? Do you feel the good podcast vibes?
I mean, only time will tell. Only ratings will tell, I
Indeed.
guess.
Yeah, please rate and subscribe.